and I love investing and just money in general, just dealing with it. And so I thought, great, I'm going to help people with this. I'm going to help them figure out retirement. And that's what I've been doing. I started a couple of years later, and I've been doing it ever since. It's now been 20 years that I've been helping people plan for retirement, and it's my passion. So today we're going to talk just about Social Security. Social Security and a little bit on taxes and how to reduce your taxes. Social Security is a government program that is just free money that the government gives us, right? What? It's not just a handout? It's not an entitlement? Isn't that what we've been told? I've heard politicians call it an entitlement. Have you? Is it an entitlement? I don't think so. You have paid into it. If you have ever worked, 6.2% out of every paycheck you've ever made goes into Social Security. 6.2% is paid by your employer if you're employed by someone. So that's really 12.4% of every paycheck. Think about that. That's a 12% tax on every dollar you've ever made is going into Social Security. There should be a fortune in there, shouldn't there? Sadly, our politicians decided to raid the trust fund and they've blown it. So Social Security is in jeopardy, and we'll talk about that. But let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll talk about everything. First thing, before I get started, I want you to look at this and tell me how many squares can you count? How many squares are there? I'm going to give you 15 seconds, one time. What do you think? 35, 30, 21, 31, a lot, bunch. Let me show you. 43, 33. Okay, let's take a look real quick. So you've got those squares, right? I was able to see those pretty easy. So there's 16 of those. This is where it starts to get a little bit complicated. It's all the other squares. We've got 16 of those. You've got these ones in the middle. What about the little ones in the middle? Did you get that? That's tricky. Tricky little ones. Then, did you get these larger ones? I missed that first time I looked at it. That's a little hard. So you've got those, 35. Now what about these big ones? Look at those squares. And lights, the big one. So 40. So the answer is 40. Now, I would argue, given enough time, if I gave you a piece of paper with that printed out and handed it to each one of you, and you had, some of you, 2 or 3 minutes, some of you 2 or 3 hours, that's a joke, maybe a couple days for some of you, you would get it, right? We could figure this out. We could all figure this out, now whether we want to take the time to do it or not, but we could figure it out. The reason I show you this is I think this is a lot like Social Security. If you could just lock yourself in a room, maybe your office or a room in your basement, close the doors, do nothing but study Social Security for the next 2 weeks, no potty breaks, no sleeping, no eating, just studying Social Security, I think you can figure it out. I really do. But the question is, do you want to take that much time? Most of us don't. Social Security code is not as bad as the tax code, but almost. It's literally, it'd be books up to here that you'd have to read to read all the Social Security rules. There's too much. And so what I'm going to try to do is condense in about an hour all of that information, as much as I can, the important parts, that'll help make sure that you get the most possible out of Social Security. So let's get started. There's more than 20,000 calculations that go into calculating your Social Security benefit. We have some great software that does this because although I'm really good at math, I somehow got an A in calculus in college. I don't know how. I couldn't do it today. But math just always came easy. I could figure it out. I couldn't do this. 20,000 calculations. If you did that by hand, at 5 minutes per calculation, working 90 days, it would take you 69 days to figure out your situation, to figure out when's the best time for you to take your benefits. What's the exact right age? Is it 62? Is it 66? Is it 65? Is it 70? Is it somewhere in between? Most likely none of those numbers are the right answer for you. It's probably somewhere in between there. And that's what we're going to try to figure out. What's at stake? I have a client, he came to me, actually we were meeting and reviewing his retirement plan and his assets and everything's going great, he's happy, and he says, hey Jeff, should I start my Social Security benefit? And when somebody asks me a question like that, I tend to just sit back and smile a little bit. And I say, well, tell me why. Why are you asking this? Now, I know his situation. The guy makes over $100,000 a year. He's 60, at the time, 63 years old, has no need for the income. And I'm thinking to myself, I know he's not retiring because he loves what he does. And I'm thinking, why are you asking? And I tell him, I say, why do you ask that? And he says, because my buddies all told me they're taking their Social Security benefit and that I should start mine too. If you leave here tonight and learn nothing else, please remember this. Don't listen to your buddies. Don't. Don't listen to your brother-in-law, your cousin, your next-door neighbor. They mean well, they love you, but they know nothing about Social Security. So don't take advice from them. So I said, okay, instead of just telling him, no, Taylor, we're not going to take the Social Security benefit right now. Instead of saying that, I said, let me run some numbers. Let's run our analysis. We have some great software. I'll put together a plan, and we'll figure out when is the right time for you to take benefits. Is it right now? Is it at age 70? Is it in a couple of years? When is it? And so that's what I did. And what this chart is showing is the difference in the amount of benefits that he and his wife are going to get over their lifetime, depending on when they start their benefits. Now, this is not advice for you because your situation is different. Everybody's unique, and I'm going to go over some of the uniqueness that you have. But this is just their situation. And in their case, his monthly benefit, if he started at full retirement age, which is 66 for them, would be $23.50 a month. So he's going to get $23.50 a month. She's going to get $17.12 a month. So $1,700 a month if she waits till her full retirement age, which is 66. She starts sooner or less. And so what this is showing is it's saying how much are they going to get over their lifetime? If they start their benefits at 62, they're going to get about $970,000 over their lifetime. If they start benefits at full retirement age, they're going to get just over $1 million over their lifetime out of Social Security. If they wait till age 70, they're going to get about $1.1 million. And if they use the optimal strategy, the best timing for them, they're going to get about $1,166,000 out of Social Security. So the difference between starting it as soon as possible to the best strategy for them is the difference of almost $200,000 over their lifetime. Now, I don't know about you, but $200,000 for me is real money. That's a lot. Yes? Great question. On this one, I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure we used age 85 as their life expectancy for both. That makes a big difference on when you should start your benefits, and we're going to talk about that. Same thing. So I think we used age 85. I could be off on that, but I'm pretty sure. Age 85. Now, that was their situation. Your situation is different. And again, this is showing, the longer they wait, the better it was for them. But there was a better strategy than just waiting to age 70. And so we'll talk about that here tonight. For a 65-year-old couple, yes? Does it assume that they paid in that much? No, it doesn't. It's whatever they've paid in over their lifetime. And in their case, he's made really good money. She's made actually decent money as well, but he's made really good money. And so they've probably paid in, I think we estimated this much, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 into Social Security over their lifetime. And they're going to get back more than that if they live a long time. But when you factor in cost of living, when you factor in what would that money have done if I invested it, it'd be the equivalent of getting like a 1% return on your money. And just so you know, that's the best strategy. The best strategy for you is going to get you probably a return of about 2, maybe 3% return on your money. If it were invested in your 401k or an IRA or some kind of investment account of some kind, savings account at the bank, if we could have put all that money from Social Security, all that tax money into a savings account earning 4 or 5%, you would have more money. You would have more money. But that's not how the government program works. And so we'll see. A couple of things to be aware of, and this is why Social Security is so important. You're living longer. We're all living longer, aren't we? Doctors, medicine, healthcare, it's all getting better. And they're keeping us alive longer. And that's both a good thing and some people might say a not so good thing. Because now we need our money to last longer. Did you know when Social Security was set up, FDR, when he set it up, the average life expectancy, does anybody know what that was back then? 75? Late 60s, 60, heard a couple different numbers. It was about 62 to 65. That was life expectancy. You weren't expected to ever start Social Security because it started at age 65. You were not expected. It'd be the equivalent today of your benefits not starting until 85, right? Not life expectancy, 85 for the average person in the room. Life expectancy is probably about 82, 83, 84. For men, it's probably 82, 83 here in this room. Ladies, you've got a plan to live. Average woman in this room, the average woman in this room is going to live to age 87. That's average. That means if you're in all good health or you have good blood, good genes, ladies, you're going to live into your 90s for sure. Men, good chance of living to 90. So we've got to make our money last longer. That's why Social Security actually is so important, because it is one of the only guaranteed sources of lifetime income that we have. And maybe it's the only one you have. How many of you are lucky enough to have a pension from a former or current employer? A handful of you, maybe not even half. But that's good. For those of you who have a pension, that's an awesome thing, right? Because that's guaranteed income on top of Social Security. For those of you who don't, which is most of us, we're out of luck. We got to save for ourselves. We have to use the 401ks and retirement accounts to save up and have our own savings. Otherwise, we're not going to have enough income in retirement. So, when you get to retirement, whether you're there right now, or it's in a year or two or three, or it's 5 years away, when you get to retirement, I call it, you get to the retirement cliff. We've got to figure out where are your income sources going to come from and how do we fill in the gap. And what I mean by gap is the difference between what you want. We want this much income in retirement. Social Security is going to take care of part of that. Maybe we're going to have other income sources such as a pension or rental real estate income or something. And the rest is really going to have to come from our personal savings. We're going to have to fill in that gap with our 401ks and IRAs and investments and whatever it is, money in the bank. We're going to have to fill in that gap. So it's so important that if we can make Social Security just a little bit bigger, that's a little bit less savings that we need, or less pension, or whatever the other income sources are. So we want our Social Security to be as big as possible. A couple things about understanding your monthly benefit. Does anybody know how Social Security calculates your monthly benefit, that number they put on your statement every year? It's really easy, just like anything our government does. By the way, you need to know a couple things about me. I can make fun of the federal government, you cannot. And the reason that is my parents both worked for the federal government, the IRS, the bad guys. And because they did, I'm a government baby, basically, and so I can make fun of the federal government. If you don't work for the federal government or your parents didn't, you cannot. Anybody work for the federal government? Because then we can together make fun. PIA, thank you for asking that. PIA stands for your primary insurance amount. I don't know where our politicians or the bureaucracy gets these names from. They just made up this. That's your monthly benefit at your full retirement age. So PIA, primary insurance amount, stands for your monthly benefit, what you're going to receive at your full retirement age. For most of you here in the room, your full retirement age is probably age 66. It might be 66 in a couple of months, or it could be as high as age 67, depending on when you were born. But for most of you, I'm guessing it's about 66, somewhere between 66 and 67. I'm going to refer to it as 66 when I talk, just to use that number, but your exact age might be a little bit different. So, how do they calculate your monthly benefit? A few easy steps. They take your highest 35 years of earnings, they adjust to reflect change in general wage levels, they apply maximum taxable earnings, they add the total earnings, they divide by the total number of months, round down to the next lower dollar. Now you have your AIM, your adjusted index monthly earnings. You're almost halfway there. There are a few more steps on how they calculate this. Basically, what I want you to see here is whatever they tell you on your statement or online, that's what it is. There is no way to figure out if they're wrong. There isn't. Unless you're an actuary with a supercomputer in your basement, we can't. So I've had people tell me, hey, I don't think my benefit's right. What can we do? It's the federal government. They control it. So whatever they tell us, that's what it is. Now, here's what you can do. You can look back at your income history. So on your statement that you might get in the mail, or if you go online and look at your actual statement, it'll show your entire working history from the past 50 years. Has anybody seen that on their statement? Where it'll show the income you've had. You can look back to 1973 and see that you made $5,000 or $3,000 or whatever it was. You literally, they go back that far. What they're doing there is they're listing how much you reported in taxable earnings and Social Security taxable earnings. If you see, now if it were 20 years ago, this is going to be really hard, but if it were 5 years ago, you see a 0, and you know you worked that year, that you can debate with Social Security. You can go in there and say, hey, I made money that year. Now you have to prove they're wrong. It's the opposite of the court system, right? Innocent until proven guilty. It's you're guilty, you got to prove you're innocent. So you've got to produce your tax return or W-2s or something that proves that you had income that year. Otherwise, you're out of luck. Because somehow the federal government that knows everything about us and is probably listening to this conversation right now, because I have 2 computers on, and all your phones, right? They hear everything we're doing, yet they can't find our tax returns. They can't find them. They don't know where they are. They don't have copies. You have to produce them. So that's a couple things now. Main thing I want you to get out of this, they take into account your highest 35 years. I've had many people tell me if you have a pension, a lot of pensions are based on your highest 3 years or last 5 years or something like that. That's your pension. Social Security is very different. It's your highest 35 years. Yes? Great question. Does it stop at 65, at age 65, and then go back from there? No. As long as you're working, it keeps going. Meaning if you're 70 years old and you're still working, you're still paying into Social Security if you have a W-2 income. And so your Social Security benefit technically could be growing still. Let me come back to that. Hold on a second. Yes, so it's your highest 35 years. So what that means, let's say, for example, you look back at your history, you've worked for 40 years. And that's realistic, right? You start working at 25, you work to 65, that's 40 years. So you've got 40 years of history. They're immediately going to throw out the lowest 5 and just keep the highest 35 years. That's what determines your monthly benefit. Let's say you only worked for 20 years. You either were out of work for a while, or you were a homemaker, you took time off work to raise the kids, or whatever, and you only have 20 years of work history. Well, they're still counting up the highest 35, which means you have 15 0 years, right? Because they're saying they're looking at 35, you only have 20. That's 15 years of zeros. That hurts your monthly benefit because they're looking at it overall. Yeah. How does self-employment factor in? If you're self-employed, you're paying what's called the self-employment tax, most likely. And the self-employment tax is Social Security and Medicare. It's 12.4%, so you're just paying it all. If you're self-employed, you don't have an employer matching you, putting in the 6.2, you're doing all 12.4. That's the self-employment tax. And then you're paying Medicare, which is another, I think, 3.8%. You add those together, and it's 15-something%. So that's what you're doing if you're self-employed. You're still paying on your net income. Counts the same. Yep. Any other questions about that? So that's just how they calculate your monthly benefit. Yep. There is a maximum amount, yes. On an annual basis, for example, this year, I think it's about $118,000 of income. Oh, yes. Income that they use to calculate your benefit. There is a maximum income on a yearly basis, and it gets adjusted every year. Yes. Great. Yep. Yep.
So, isn't there, I've never seen anybody make over like a certain amount. So even though they have the maximum amount they can withhold on you, isn't there still a max? I mean, you're not, let's say that they just raise that maximum amount that they're withholding from you. You're never going to get to the point where they pay you $1,000.
Okay, great question. So the question is there a maximum amount? Is there a maximum benefit amount, really? And yes, there is. And the maximum benefit amount, for example, this year, I think is about $2,700 and change, is the maximum on the benefit. And that's for somebody retiring today at age 66, full retirement age. The maximum they could be getting is about $2,700 a month. It might be closer to $2,800. And so that's your maximum monthly benefit. Doesn't matter if you made $1 million a year. So Warren Buffett's probably getting $2,700 a month, something like that. Because it doesn't matter what you make after a certain amount, about 120 something thousand. It doesn't matter. You're at the maximum, you're going to get that maximum benefit, but you don't get a dime more. There is nothing more you can get. Great question. So that's your monthly benefit. There, the soonest you can start taking your benefit is age 62. And guess what percent of Americans take their benefit as soon as they possibly can at age 62? 70%, 80? 20? 50 is the correct answer. It's about 50% of Americans take their benefit as soon as they possibly can. For some of you, that is the right answer. For others of you, and I'd say that probably the majority, it is not the right answer. Probably not. And we'll talk about why here in just a second. So 62 is the earliest you can start your benefits. Of course, you can start anytime after that. 66, again, age 66 is your full retirement age benefit, or somewhere right around there. And age 70 is the latest you would want to wait. You should not wait past age 70. I actually had someone in a classroom like this about 3 years ago, and I said this. At the end of the class, he came up to me and he said, "Were you serious about that?" I'm always serious about these things, by the way. Actually, I joke a lot. You'll see that. I tend to be a little sarcastic, especially when we're talking about the federal government. Understand that I love our country. I think we have the best country in the world. I just think our politicians are crooked. That's all. That's all. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that. Maybe they're great and they're doing what's right for us. But anyways, my point is, he came up to me after, he's like, "Wait, age 70, our benefit stops growing?" I'm like, "Yes." He says, "I'm 71. What should I do?" I'm like, "You need to run over to Social Security right now." Of course, it was an evening class like this. I said, "First thing in the morning, you go over to Social Security. They're right across the street from my office in South Jordan. You run over there, you go meet with them, and you tell them you want your benefit now. And ask them to go back as far as they will, which is about 6 months. So you ask them to go back because you need to get that money. You're just missing out on money after age 70. Your benefit stops growing at 70. Now, if you are still working, so let's use the example, you're still working at age 70, your benefit actually can grow, but it will grow even if you're collecting it. So if your highest 35 years are happening right now at age 70 and you're collecting your Social Security benefit, they will actually make an adjustment and increase your benefit if your wages are high enough to justify that. So that's why I would say you do not wait 1 day past age 70. That's the latest you want to wait because your benefit stops growing, other than for cost of living adjustments and other than because you're still working.
There's a point that you got to be careful to figure that out, because if we're still working, they're withholding. So the question is the amount you're going to increase your Social Security by more than what they're withholding. But it is, you're wasting, you're giving more money.
So the question is, well, should you take your benefit because maybe tax-wise it hurts you because you're going to be paying more in taxes. So let's say I'm working, I'm making $100,000 a year, and all of a sudden I start my Social Security benefit at age 70, and I'm still working, still planning to work, and my benefit's $40,000 a year, maybe, I don't know, could be at age 70. So I'm making $40,000 a year from Social Security. Is that worth taking, or am I just losing a bunch of money in taxes? This is where you need a good CPA to help you figure that out. But I would argue, yes, you take it. Here's why. If you make $40,000 in Social Security benefits from a tax perspective, let's say that throws you up into a higher tax bracket, you're losing 30% of it to taxes. You're still keeping 70% of it. So you get that money. It's your money. If you wait, you're just giving up money. You don't get it back. It stops growing.
So you're telling the Social Security that they're withholding while you're working, and then they're turning around and giving you.
The Social Security they're withholding has nothing to do with really this. That's just calculating your future benefit. Let's talk about taxes when we get there. Let's hold off on that for a second. Was there a question here? We're not on taxes yet, actually. Nope. Okay. So this is your monthly. This is your benefit. Every year you wait to take your benefit, it grows. Every year you wait, it grows. And you can see at your full retirement age, you get 100% of your full retirement age benefit. If you take it at 62, you get about 75% of your monthly benefit, of your full retirement age benefit. If you wait till age 70, you're getting 132% of your full retirement age benefit. So what that tells us is every year you wait, your monthly benefit grows. So it pays to wait, but it doesn't always pay to wait forever. And I'll explain why. So the amount of money that you are going to receive over your lifetime from Social Security is dependent on two factors. How much you receive monthly and how long you live, right? It's pretty simple math. You can tell me how long you're going to live. I can tell you to the month when you should start your monthly benefit. We have great software. We can help you figure this out. It's just math. And it's figuring out when to start your benefit. Problem is, we of course don't know how long we're going to live, right? So this is where it comes down to, we've got to look at a couple different factors. I'm going to talk about tonight if you're single, if you're married, if you're divorced, and if you're widowed. I think that covers hopefully everybody in the room. If it does not, raise your hand and let me know. I got to think about it. I'm pretty sure that's everybody, but maybe not. Let me know if you have a special circumstance, because there are sometimes special situations. So if you are single, there are only two factors, in my opinion, that matter on when you should start your benefits if you are single. When are you retiring, and when do you need the money, basically. So for example, if I'm 63 years old and I just got let go from my job, or I quit because I couldn't take it anymore, or whatever it is, and I need that money, I don't have enough other savings to live on, I have to take Social Security. Well, that's factor number one. When do I need the money? Factor number two is, how long am I going to live? What is my health situation? Now, none of us knows exactly how long we're going to live, right? We don't. But we can guess. We can estimate. You know, we tend to look at our parents and say, well, my parents are still alive, and they're 84 and 86, and my grandparents lived till they were 90, so I'm probably going to live to 90. That's part of it. That's part of it. Do we have any medical professionals in the room? Doctors, nurses? Mad scientists? Nope. Okay. I've asked doctors and nurses this, I'd like to ask them, but they tell me, I forget what the exact number is, it's only about 20 or 30% of your life expectancy is based on your parents, your blood, your DNA, so to speak, that you get from your parents. Most of it is your personal health, your situation. There's a lot of factors that go into it. I think the biggest factor is luck. Are you lucky and you don't get cancer, or are you unlucky and you get it? That's what I think it is. But I could be wrong. I'm not a medical professional, so don't quote me on that. But anyways, those are the two factors if you're single. When do you need the money, and what's your health situation? If you're in really bad health, if you feel like there is no chance I'm living past age 75, when should you start your benefit? As soon as possible. As soon as possible. 62 probably. You should start. Because you're not going to live long enough to get a lot out of it. If you wait till age 66, you're only getting it for 9 years. Yeah, you're getting more monthly, but you're getting it for less number of years, less months. And if I wait till age 70, I'm going to get a whole lot monthly, which is good. But if I only live for 5 years, I lost. They beat me. Social Security beat me. It's not a game. But really, that's how I feel, right? I don't know about you. I feel that way. Dang it. I didn't get all the money I could have gotten. I'm going to be up in heaven. I'm assuming I'm going to be in heaven. Looking down thinking I could have gotten more money out of Social Security. Dang it. That's what I'm going to be thinking. I have a money mind. I can't help it. Sorry. It's all I think about. What's going on in here. Makes me really good at what I do. Maybe not good at other things. But anyways. So those are the factors if you're single. Now, what if you're married? Actually, I'm going to show you this real quick. This is just a chart, and this is not pertaining to anybody here in the room, obviously, so don't take this as your advice. But this is just a chart that we do when we run the numbers to figure out when is the right time for you. And for this person, based on whatever life expectancy we use, which I don't know what it was, probably age 80 or 82 or something like that, it said their best time was right here, about age 67. That was their best time. Because if they take it at 62, they're going to get this much out of Social Security. If they wait till 70, they're actually getting about the same as 62. So for them, the right number was age 67. It's different for all of us depending on how long we're going to live. So that's where we can have a conversation and figure out, okay, how long do you think you're going to live? We can guess, and then figure out, okay, how do we get the most out of Social Security? When should we start? Now, there's a couple different benefits you need to be aware of. The retired worker benefit, that's your benefit. That's your monthly benefit. And then there is something called the spousal benefit. Now, I have taught this class, like I said at the beginning, for 8 to 9 years. I've been teaching this class. And at least half of the people who come to these classes tell me they've never even heard about this benefit. So if you haven't, once I go into it, don't feel bad. It's not that you're not in the know. The majority of people I've ever met have never heard of this. If you've heard of it, you're a step ahead of everybody else. So, spousal planning, spousal benefits. When you get married, everything changes, for better or for worse. That's what they tell us, right? And that's true. And here's why. It's true with Social Security. I say that jokingly, but it does. It makes a difference on Social Security. When you are single, you can think about just yourself. You can think about just yourself and say, when's the best timing for me? And if I want to take my benefits at age 62, dang, right, I'm taking it, right? I want the money, it's mine, I can take it now. If I'm single, I can make that choice. If you're married, you need to talk about your spouse, or at least think about your spouse's situation. Let me give you an example. I have a gentleman, or actually a lady, who called into my radio show about 5 or 6 years ago. And she told me her sad, sad story. They retired, age 65, retired. Husband had a great pension, great Social Security. She had just spousal benefit, which I'll talk about here in a second, some Social Security, so she had some coming in from Social Security. And that's it. They had no savings, no investments, no nothing. And he dies 3 years into retirement. Guess what goes away? The pension. He chose the pension option that was only good for his lifetime. So when he died, his big fat pension, it was a great pension, it was like $3,500 a month. I think that's a great pension. Gone. So all of a sudden, $3,500 a month is gone. She has nothing. Social Security, they have two benefits, his and hers. Hers is gone. The lower one goes away. She gets to keep the higher one. That's the good side. She gets to keep his benefit, which was higher. But now that's all she has. She has about $2,000 a month coming in. That's it. That's her entire salary for the rest of her life. That's tight, right? Not impossible, but that's going to be tight. She's not going to be able to spoil the grandkids with that money coming in. And so that's why I say husbands especially, because I see this more in that way, but it can be wives too. Look out for your spouse. Figure out when's the best timing for you and your spouse. Because I may think, you know what, I'm in bad health, I'm not going to make it past age 80, I'm taking my benefits at age 62. But my wife might be in excellent health, her parents are still alive at 90, so chances are she's going to live to 100. And if I take my benefit early, if my benefit's the larger one, I may be hurting my wife. Because although I'm going to get my monthly benefit earlier, because I think I'm going to die soon, I'm hurting her because when I die, she's going to get mine. And now I've hurt her, she's going to have a much lower benefit because I took it at 62 instead of waiting until 66 or maybe even 70. So again, I'm just saying, husbands, wives, think about each other, look at that situation and figure out what's right. And if you have a pension, make sure you choose the right option for you. There isn't a right or wrong answer. Maybe there was a reason he took that benefit, but it sure didn't work out for him. For her, I should say. Did not work out for her. So be careful with your pension options and Social Security options. Now, spousal benefit. The spousal benefit says you are eligible to take up to half of your spouse's benefit, their full retirement age benefit, if you don't have one of your own or if yours is smaller than that. How many of you have heard of that before, the spousal benefit? About half or so. You guys are a much more educated group than most people because most people have not heard about it. So that's good that you know about that. That's an important benefit. I can't tell you how many times I hear people tell me, they didn't know about it and they weren't taking advantage of it. So just be aware of that. If your benefit, as an example, let's just say my spouse, for example, I have a client, she's an OBGYN. So she just retired, but she's a doctor, made really good money. He stayed at home as the homemaker to take care of the kids, raise the kids, everything. So he was Mr. Mom. And he stayed home, and his Social Security benefit is nothing. I mean, he might have had a little bit. I think he had a few $100s a month, basically nothing. Her benefit is the highest. It's the highest that we've talked about. It was $2,700 a month or whatever it is. So she's going to get that. He's only going to get $300 a month, but that's not the case, right? What is he entitled to? Half of hers. He gets half of her $2,700. So now between the two of them, they have, let's see, what's half of $2,700? Almost $1350 a month. So between the two of them, they've got over $4,000 a month coming in just from Social Security. Now that's pretty good, right? $4,000 a month just from Social Security. She's a doctor. She saved a lot of money. She had her own 401k and retirement and all that stuff. Awesome. So be aware, spousal benefit matters, especially if you or your spouse have been at home or haven't worked as much or just haven't made nearly as much. The spousal benefit may help you get more.